Why do so many polls show us that those seeking spiritual truth are becoming increasingly disinterested in what the Christian church has to say? Why do the same polls show us so few within the church even seem interested in wanting to go out into the community and live in a way that would change their minds? Jesus' Great Commission commanded us to go out and make disciples. Yet the pollsters consistently tell us more than 85% of those who claim to be Christians would not claim to be disciples of Jesus. The lack of a vision that fulfills the Great Commission has caused three critical disconnections in the church: men from their significance, giftedness, and calling; leadership from their mandate to create disciples; and the church from a society it is to lead to Christ through words of truth and actions of love. It's time to fundamentally rethink what church should be. It's time to take out a clean sheet of paper, cast aside our preconceptions, and forge a bold, new strategy grounded in what we witness in Jesus' ministry. At Reconnections, we believe it comes down to biblical teaching concerning shepherds and sheep. Jesus said that his sheep heard his voice, and they followed him. Sheep both hear the command of the shepherd and follow his lead. Therefore, Jesus both taught and showed men how to run with him. He knew that inspired messages without inspired leadership would cause confusion among the sheep as to what to do with what they heard. The modern church has been seduced by what we at Reconnections refer to as the classroom leadership model. Too many shepherds are commanding without tangibly leading, resulting in flocks forever learning without acting. Classroom Christianity now dominates the landscape in the church in America. But it's not Jesus' model. The classroom mindset begins in seminary, where young men and women who want to make an impact for Christ hear a lot of teaching about going out, yet see little of it from those teaching them. What they see is a classroom. It's understandable then that when they go out to lead their flocks, they establish the same model. They're just being good sheep. Our new shepherds then train small group leaders to lead the sheep out into their communities. But like good sheep, those leaders also follow the example they've seen and just form smaller classrooms. Classroom Christianity eventually filters down to the people in the pews, who as good sheep think following Jesus means forever learning without doing, about spectating and not running. It's keeping them stalled in the starting blocks of Jesus' great adventure. This model has yielded too many in the church, particularly men, who can't translate what they learn on Sunday into a lifestyle, and quite frankly are bored because they never experience their critical contribution to the body of Christ. Why do we keep building bigger and bigger church buildings and yet have relatively little impact in our communities? Why do we hear persistent sermons urging members to evangelize and serve their communities, and yet so few of us actually go? Why will our members go to the church facility numerous times during the week for meetings, practices, programs, and studies, yet rarely will they go out from them? How is it that we can raise billions of dollars each year to build and remodel our houses of worship, and yet the poor in our neighborhoods must look to the government for help? It's simple. Sheep follow their shepherds, and the classroom is where they find them. We are not making disciples run with our vision, and it's because we're not giving them a true vision of Jesus. Our shepherds desire to see their flocks go out, and their teaching certainly encourages them. But because we've embraced a flawed model, our commands aren't resulting in the making of disciples who run with the Good Shepherd. Jesus said he came not to abolish the law, but to fulfill it. Under the old way, God took men by the hand to lead them. They couldn't keep the greatest law because his leading was external. But God solved this problem by sending Jesus to pay the price for sin, opening the door to the Spirit to bring the law into men's hearts and minds. Now they could keep the greatest law because his leading was internal. Now they could truly love. And so Jesus did fulfill the law by making the greatest law of all possible for his people. But he didn't stop there. The Bible tells us Jesus came as the Word made flesh, so men could not only hear God's law, but see a living example of it to follow. Now he commands his disciples everywhere to do likewise, balancing the proclamation of the gospel with bringing it to life through good deeds. We at Reconnections believe the current model can change if we look to Jesus and how his life and vision made men run. This is summarized in the first 17 verses of John 15, which reveals a leadership structure and balanced lifestyle that can reconnect what has become disconnected. Jesus didn't just preach in the temple, he led by example as he laid down his life for those he taught. Having fulfilled the law, Jesus restated and renewed the great commandment when he said in John 15, "Abide in me and bear fruit." With the indwelling of the Spirit and a living example to follow, his new vision made men run. Now we have the Good Shepherd, the Word to hear, and the person to follow. It is the mission and passion of Reconnections to help churches reestablish the John 15 model from the top down in a body of any size, whether connecting a new flock or reconnecting an existing one. We can awaken the men in the back rows of our churches to their giftedness and get them running because they see a new example. Shepherds and sheep can begin abiding and bearing fruit together, making disciples in the process. And the church can again become a light on a hill in the midst of our communities. We can turn the tide and see those seeking spirituality return to our words of truth because they have been touched by our acts of love. Weekend leadership and men's retreats, where we'll discuss together the balance and transforming message of Jesus' vision for us in John 15. Provide breakout sessions for leadership to discuss their role, and sessions for men to empower, challenge, and encourage them to begin discovering their giftedness and get excited about the unique role the Spirit has for each of them. A 2-day consult back at your church, where we will help pastors identify and begin a balanced training program for their disciples. Current leadership will be interviewed, recommendations made to facilitate your new track, and a group leadership session held for prayer, open discussion, and Q&A time. And you will be networked with other like-minded organizations and churches that can serve as mentors as you move out into your neighborhood. Once the Reconnections model is embraced in your church, it will no longer just be a place of learning and worship, but a model of balance, a track where seekers can learn, but where disciples can run as well. Shepherds and sheep will be motivated to venture out of the sheepfold and into the community where they can run together. That's what we call Reconnections. For more information, along with suggested fees, please visit our website at thereconnectedchurch.org.